AC चल रहा है?
Good evening, everyone. So again, our Organon class 5 to 6. We have been discussing the introduction of the author to the Organon of medicine, and in that we all are able to cover the maximum portion of the paragraphs. I mean, we are just going to finish 77 or 78 paragraphs we have completed. And now we are going up to the next phase of the introduction regarding the review of the allopathic medication practice, old school practice, so many names. So in this practice, till now, Dr. Hahnemann spoke a lot about their uselessness, about their crude way of medication and treatment, about the cruelty of the treatment which have been going. And Hahnemann described also that his method was not very well taken. Moreover, in every situation, these old school people, they made number of changes in the name of advancement, but they did not leave the idea of tolicosm. And some 4 different kind of methods they were using, like evacuation, strengthening, alternating medicine, and all this. And finally, they came up with a mixture of the medication in which they mixed all those things together, which became more torturous, more harmful, more incurable to the suffering humanity. And then finally, Hahnemann is saying, when what we completed yesterday, that this paragraph deserves another reading, which we completed yesterday, the small one, that is 77th or maybe 78th. By observation, reflection, and experience, I discovered that contrary to the best mode of treatment is contained in the maximum, contains in this maxim means the universal law. What is that universal law? To cure mildly, rapidly, certainly, and permanently, choose in every case of disease a medicine which can itself produce an affection similar to that sought to be cured. So he is using 4 important words in this. What are those 4 important words? First of all, it should be mild, should be rapid, should be certain, no ambiguity, and it should be permanent. We need to understand the right dimension of these 4 words. When he says mildly, means hardly any side effects. When he says rapidly, it is as per the timeline. If suppose it is acute condition, then the course of the acute disease must get shortened. This is the meaning of rapid. And in chronic disease, what it should be? It should be in the shortest interval. So these dimensions need to be understood, which we will be discussing when we are going to discuss aphorism 2. Then when you say certainly, that means there is no ambiguity. There is no such if and but. Right? There should be a science which should be able to cure certainly and permanently. I told you yesterday, when you say permanently, means that once you became all right, then does not mean that you are suffering with lot many after effects of the disease or the medication given, or both. Permanent does not mean that once you have given somebody some medication, then after he will never fall sick. This is this is not the case. This is not the meaning of Dr. Henry. Here, the permanent means something that you restored now should not fall back and be ill. This is the meaning. One sometimes take the different meaning. It's not that way. Permanent is not something that rest of the life I will not fall sick. Not good also. So this kind of properties, when these four properties, what kind of law can really fulfill this kind of four properties? It is only the medication which is selected on the law of similia. This is what he's saying in this paragraph. So let's go further. Now, next para onwards, maybe 78 or 79, some you just check up with, and up to 83, 84 paragraph. These are the some 5, 6, 7 paragraphs. What they are going to tell us. So far, Henman talked all the bad points of the old school. Now he's going to say that how can you get a glimpse of the law of similia, even in the most torturous treatment, which I could see. And the beginning of the thing with its footnote is such a beautiful expression that if you read, you will enjoy. He says, hitherto means till now. Till now, no one has ever taught this homeopathic mode of cure. What we discussed with this four property, with the law of similia, this mode of cure, this homeopathic mode of cure, so far, till now, none has taught. Means from the past, all the ages, from last 2500 years. Hitherto, no one has ever taught this homeopathic mode of cure. No one has carried it out in practice. But if the truth is only to be found in this method, as I can prove it to be, we might expect that even though it remained unperceived for thousands of years, distinct traces of it would yet be discovered in every age. What a beautiful expression. And then says, we can all ask a question from Hahnemann that, okay, you were only telling law of similia, then that means nobody knew. If it is that nobody actually could know it, then how could you say that what you are telling law of similia is going to be infallible? It is not going to be failed. And how can you say this is a universal law? So Henman was very well understood about it. He says that suppose if my telling of the law of similia, which I will be proving, he says, is going to be so good, then I must tell you one thing. It is not that me who is seeing it first time. The glimpses of it were already there and in almost all the ages. See, that means, see, if you really go into the history and the history of medicine, beautiful thing is such. History is one such thing from where you have one convenience. One should not take this kind of convenience because then it loses the fact. But then people take that convenience, they go by their prejudice, by their feelings that I want to know what is good. And they search the history and find out the point in favor of that. So, what I mean is that most of the time, history is not really the narration of the facts, but history is as per the person he wants, as per his prejudices. Politically, if you see the history, the winner will always got to write history by the historians because he's the winner. He is now running the country or the place. So he will be directing people writing the history where he would like that because he's the winner, he should be glorified. So then how can you narrate a fact in the history? So in the whole history of medicine, the two thoughts parallelly go. What these two thoughts? Maybe the rationalism and the empiricism, maybe allopathy and homeopathy. Maybe names are different, maybe expressions are different, but then these two things, these two thoughts, this is known as the epistemology. In a philosophy, there is a word called epistemology. What is epistemology? Epistemology is philosophy of education. So, if suppose you want to learn psychology, let us take an example. Each subject, including psychology, has got two parallel rivers flowing. One river is based on rationalism, another based on empiricism. Similarly, the art of medicine. It was flowing with these two kind of rivers. With the time, in one or the other age, someone is rather more prominent. How you find that when Henman came in this century and given the right place, given the right dimension to the law of similia, he's saying till now only I am giving this dimension, this understanding, this revelation about the law of similia. But then does not mean that it was not glowing, not glimpsing earlier. Rather, it was glimpsing, it was there in every age. This is what he is describing. And if it is in every age, that means what? Then whatever may be the ways and methods of treatment, all this torturous treatment were going on, this law of similia was existing along with it. I mean that it was somewhere in a very unconscious usage. It was there and it was in use. But people are the physicians of those age and era and of old school were completely unaware of it. Anything which is very near to your eyes is not seen. That was the scenario. This is what he's saying. See, read this paragraph once again. Hitherto, no one has taught this homeopathic mode of cure. No one has carried it out in practice, but in truth. But if the truth is only to be found in this method, as I can prove it to be, we might expect that even though it remained unperceived for thousands of years, distinct traces of it would yet to be discovered in every age. He gave a task to himself. If suppose I am doing and saying so, if it is that universal, if this law is so essential and working, then I must be able to prove how. I will be able to prove only that what I do, what earlier physicians felt and glimpsed, and even in the practice, old school, there can be many such examples. Even a kind of folklore practice, you will find this. See, this remembers me about the one very important text, that is Bhagavad Gita, a text which was told by Lord Krishna to the great Arjun in a very very heating stage of the war. They were at the just not really the verge, they were just in the war. And in the war, this was the book which came up. So when you find these kind of things, when you are saying and finding such kind of things, you are going to face such very important things that even in those kind of worry situation, the revelation of truth occurs. And while narrating the truth, how Lord Krishna was saying, he was not saying this way that I am the Lord, I am telling you this. No. The very expression was that this is the knowledge which is given to son, then son told to this rishi, then this rishi told to this rishi, and now I am telling it to you. That is the expression. The same I can understand here by the expression of Dr. Hahnemann. Means in Bhagavad Gita, even the Lord Krishna is not claiming that the knowledge is by me, though it is. But then even then, according to him, this is not the knowledge from me. Knowledge has a journey. Knowledge has a journey. It starts from some very highest level and it passes on like a river from one to the other. The same expression you find here. He says, if this is the true, then it must be true in all ages. It must be seen with all the people, those who are doing all these murderous and torturous activities. Henmin was so unprejudiced, though he himself was very badly treated by his fellow brethren. But then he, regarding the knowledge, regarding the experience, regarding the expression of art of healing, he never expressed himself as a prejudiced physician, rather the most unprejudiced human being. And he could find the best out of the worst. And he is going to show us so many examples now, maybe more, some 10, 11 examples he's going to show us from the old school practice. He's going to show us that how unconscious homeopathy was actually going on. And that is what he says, that this is the glimpses I can really see. But then before going into that, in this paragraph, there is one very beautiful footnote. I wish that every one of you read this footnote. The footnote goes, for truth is co-eternal with the all-wise, benevolent deity. See, this is what I was telling you, how this is very near to the expression of Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. Any problem with the net? Are you able to listen me? Just tell me, can you hear me properly? Okay, good enough, good enough. So, this very expression in the footnote, you can see, for truth is co-eternal with all-wise benevolent deity. There are two things which are eternal in this universe. One is this Almighty, this God, whatever and in whatever sense you and me understand is our personal choice. But then we all trust there is some universal benevolent deity we all call God or Bhagwan or whatever we can say. That all powerful God and the truth. These are the two entities which are eternal. Truth is eternal, God is eternal. Both coexist. That is what he is saying. For truth is co-eternal with all-wise benevolent deity. It may long escape the observation of man until the time foreordained by providence arrives, when its rays shall irresistibly break through the clouds of prejudice and usher in the dawn of the day, which shall shine with a bright and inexhaustible light for the weal of human race. So he is comparing the law of similia with this level of truth. He is giving the comparison, the status to the law of similia to this level of ultimate eternal truth. If it is that, then he says such kind of truth may be a possibility, may remain cover for certain time, and that too with the wish of the God. Not that somebody is doing it, it is the wish of the God. It is the wish of the God when he wishes that it should uncover, come out from the clouds of the prejudice. What is that prejudice? Prejudice is a thought, a cloud on the intellect, on the wisdom of the person. See, uh, in the old school physician, they kept on understanding everything only with the point of view of tolicosm. And even so far, it is the same scenario. We have to kill the virus. It is there. That means that definitely still that prejudice, the cloud of that prejudice persisting. But then definitely it was with the courtesy of Hahnemann. It was the blessed soul of Hahnemann through which this Almighty, this God, this benevolent deity desired that the truth should reveal. And this is all what actually happened. The truth is revealed, ushered in the dawn of the day, which shine with a bright and inexhaustible light. It, it is an inexhaustible light now. It is not going to be the extinguishable light. For what? For the weal of human race. When we say weal means the wound, the lesion of the human race. Henman is comparing the whole human race and especially the sickness to the human race, the illness of the human race, the suffering humanity. He said the whole human race is suffering with some kind of scourge, some kind of wound, some kind of lesion. And when such kind of lesion is there, this is the law, which is the truth. to the level of eternity, and in the last so many ages, it remained somewhere covered over with the wish of the Almighty. And now the Almighty wishes that it should come out of the clouds of the prejudice and usher and shower the light around whatever may be since Hanuman's time, whatever may be the changes. But then the light of this law of similia never extinguished, never closed. बुझ नहीं गई ये रोशनी कभी, बुझेगी भी नहीं ये रोशनी कभी. So like this, he explained, he gave this level of understanding. And once we all understand this, that this is the truth we all practice, how far we should respect, not less than we respect to our gods. The law of similia is such thing. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. Never mind, you go and take anything. No. We should be having this kind of understanding of our law of similia, of our homeopathy. And does not mean that we should start doing some kind of ritual puja on that. Our ritual puja is only one, that we must study. Our ritual in this way, that every day we must and reflect and learn from the various sources, Hanuman, and thereafter those who have really exposed Hanuman in a better way. We must learn from their literature, from Hanuman and the post-Hanumanian people, to learn that how further and better we can do to help this heal the wheel of the humankind. More and more we heal the wheel, more and more we will be having the nearness to the truth, to the Almighty. This is the simple way of understanding. The way I understand, I'm explaining, I'm just expressing you, I'm just pouring out my heart to you. So going further, next para, even in real cures by means of mixtures of, no, before that, we completed up to 78, 79. Now let's go 79 or 80. Just see, I'm reading. And such is the fact. In all ages, the patients who have been really rapidly, permanently, and obviously cured by medicines, and who did not merely recover by some fortuitous circumstances or by the acute disease having run its allotted course, or by the power of system having in the course of time gradually attained the preponderance under allopathic and antagonistic treatment, for being cured in a direct manner differs vastly from recovering in an indirect manner. Such patients have been cured solely by means of a homeopathic medicine which possessed the power of producing a similar morbid state. In this para, he wants to say that what is the criteria of understanding that cases of the old school, where they were fed up with so much of mixtures and crude medications, how can you make out that how this is going to be a homeopathic cure? How can you make out? This is the point. So this is something very important to understand. What kind of criteria he is able to make out. It is very clearly he mentioned, whenever you are seeing a case under the treatment of old school, if suppose a patient who is getting all right with indirect manner, means by their ways, we learnt that it will be all right only after the completion of the course. By the way of vital force means some kind of crisis, and then some debility and lack of strength by the old school medication. This kind of patient who has passed through all this torture, and out of them, some patients they suddenly become all right without any kind of delay and without any kind of so many complications. When you get these two kind of cases, you can very easily make out that one group of patients is getting all right directly, and one group of patients are getting all right indirectly. So you can easily make out that if these are the two different cases, then the person who became all right directly without any side effects is actually nothing but whatever the medication was given to him out of those group of medicines. There was certainly one medicine which actually was working, you know, in a homeopathic manner. This is what he's saying. So he told you that how he understood and how carefully he tried to find out the truth of the cases in the old school. He did not just kept them aside. This is all useless, torturous cases. No, he further dissected them and he made out number of cases which became all right directly without any side effects. Going further, even in real cures, by means of mixtures of medicines, which which were excessively rare, though it is rare, agreed. But even in real cures by means of mixtures of medicines, it will be found that the remedy whose action predominated was always of a homeopathic kind. So there were the cases when earlier they were not using the mixtures, but then only one or two medicines. And another new stage, the recent stage, when they found, yes, all right, number of cases were on the mixture medications. So he is telling in the previous para the crude single medicine kind of thing done, and you may find out this direct cure without any side effect means that these were the cases accidentally of homeopathy, unconscious homeopathy. And in the second case, even in mixture, the medicine which is somehow predominantly homeopathic to the case will cure the case directly without any side effects. So these were the explanations he is going to give you, the understanding, the criteria he has given, that how he made out the truth from the cases of the old school. But this is observed much more strikingly in cases where physicians sometimes effected a rapid cure with one simple medicinal substance, contrary to the usual custom that admitted of none but mixture of medicines in the form of prescription. There we see, to our astonishment, that this always occurred by means of a medicine that is itself capable of producing an affection similar to the case of the disease, although the physicians themselves knew not what they were doing and acted in forgetfulness of contrary doctrine of their own school. So, whatever, as I explained you already, that this kind of cure was taking place, and in this unconscious homeopathy, the old school physician never realized that they were doing something. Homeopathy means contrary to your doctrine, means in your old school, you give the medication which are on the contraria basis or on the allo basis, means hetero basis, no relation or opposite relation. But unconsciously they found they have somehow done homeopathy without knowing, but then they were only for their way, nothing else. They prescribed a medicine, the very reverse of that, which they should have employed according to the traditional therapeutics, and it was only in consequence of doing that the patient was rapidly cured. So he made a very clear-cut understanding, which I told you, that if the single medicine given, though they were giving it in the name of evacuation, but then actual relationship established, which was of homeopathy. The patient cured directly, quickly, without any side effects. But they did not notice. They counted it as their success. That's it. And they never realized that they were doing something which is somehow going against their way of doing things. Going next. If we deduct the cases in which the specific remedy for a disease of never varying character has been made known to physicians of the old school, that means not by their own investigations, but I read it again. If we deduct the cases in which the specific remedy for a disease of never varying character has been made known to physicians of the old school, by the empirical practice of common people, wherewith they are enabled to effect a direct cure, as for instance, he has given some 4 or 5 examples here. If we deduct these, we find that without almost any exception, all the other treatment of the old school physician in chronic diseases consists of debilitating, teasing, and tormenting the already afflicted patient to the aggravation of his disease and to his destruction, with great display of dignity, gravity on the part of doctor, and at a ruinous expense of the patient. He is telling another important thing. For example, he told in the previous para that how the unconscious homeopathy was going on. He is rather saying all the cases where this unconscious homeopathy was done, if you take away those cases, the rest remaining cases were only the destruction of the patient, only the devastation of the patient in every terms. And when this kind of thing he is saying, he is adding one more important thing here, that how will you believe that this particular medicine only worked in those mixtures or single medicines? How will you prove it? He says, if you really want to prove that, let us prove it by some examples. If such kind of treatment is given by the folklore, the non-medical people, and he has given some 5 examples, means whatever unconsciously happened in the old school, unconsciously by the old school physicians, those examples can be seen in the folklore, in the non-medical people, and with certain examples, and the rest of the cases treated with old school are farce, are destructive, are ruining the patient in every level. What are those examples? He's giving the example when he says here, empirical practice of common people. Here, this empirical word means, this is not the empirical what I discussed with you against the rationalism. This empirical means just by seeing the other person doing. This is empirical means when somebody learned in the home, the grandmother learned seeing her mother, and she's now telling in the family, do this. Just by doing some kind of medication, seeing others, it works. This is empirical meaning here. But this is not the That empirical, what I told you, that is empiricism, empirical philosophy. So he says in the common people, when, for instance, means for example, you give mercury for chancrous venereal disease, it is a homeopathic use. This old school physician unconsciously doing, and I told you that in alternative method of treatment, they were using mercury. Henman must have gone through the cases where all the cases given mercury became all right. That was because of homeopathy. And Henman says, now you will not trust me. You will say something else. I am saying, if suppose the same thing is done by a common man as empiricism, see how methodically Henman trying to prove his point. Another example, morbid state resulting from contusions with arnica. People were knowing, while see arnica is available in the hills. People, those who are going up and down the hills, when they fall, they get injury. They knew this is the thing. Take this herb out, use it. Our injury will go. This contusions will go. Folklore means the general people, non-medical people were knowing it. So he said this another example. Then marsh ague with cinchona bark means kind of intermittent fever cured with cinchona bark. Another example. How as an alternative medicine, as in strengthening medicine, old school people were using cinchona bark. They will not agree what Henman says. Henman says now you see in the common people, when they do this, they become all right. And that is why he is saying in your cases I saw this, then only he became all right directly. Then another example, maybe, yes, itch with flowers of the sulfur. Then he uses a word etc. Means there are vagera, vagera, vagera. There are many, many more examples. He quoted just five examples. Five examples. So with this, he is able to really prove his point with a great display. Now another point, he's teasing the people of old school that your all cases which you say, which you boost, became all right. Actually became all right because of the homeopathic expression, unconscious homeopathy. Rest all cases are destruction. But then you really boost yourself in so much of dignity and in so much of gravity as a doctor. But then actually you ruin the patient. Going further, blind experience sometimes led them to a homeopathic mode of treatment. And yet they did not perceive the law of nature, in obedience to which cures so effective did and must ensue. See, I am saying again and again unconscious experience. He is saying blind experience. Blind experience of the homeopathic mode you have been doing, he's telling his co-brethren. But then you never go with the law of nature and in its obedience to do this regularly. And that is what I am telling you. And in this para, he is giving you number of examples. Here you will find this, it's a long footnote you will find. And in this long footnote, he is giving you some 11 examples. 11 examples. And this 11 examples has got telling you that how blindly they followed homeopathy, but they did not agree. Give you certain examples. The first one, thus, they imagined they could drive out through the skin in a sudatory matter. Sudatory matter means the sweating, which they believed to stagnate there after a chill if they gave the patient to drink during the cold stage of catarrhal fever an infusion of elder flowers, which is capable of removing such a fever and curing the patient by its peculiar similarity of action homeopathically, and this it does most promptly, effectively, without causing perspiration, if but a small quantity of this infusion and nothing else to be taken. This is one example. What is that example? He is going to tell you in this example. He told in the main para that you were doing unconscious homeopathy, but then you never realized. Example. What this herb is he naming here? It is nothing but the sambucus, what medicine we are there in. And they old school understood this sambucus a medicine which has a capacity to produce lot of sweating. So they felt somebody is coming with a catarrhal fever in which initial symptom is chill. If we give this medicine in the chill stage, it will cause lot of sweating and your fever will go. But the situation is altogether different. In such stage, in such kind of fever, catarrhal fever, in these conditions, when you give sambucus, it actually cures the patient homeopathically without causing lot of sweating and all. But then they never agreed to, because they were blind. When you say blind means their vision was blind. Eye was working, but then vision was blind. Similarly, he is giving another example of inflammation. We all know, now everybody knows. Earlier, old school people were not knowing. Now they also know. If you get some abscess, if you simply give a heat fomentation by poultice, means a kind of bunch of cloth, if you really give a heat fomentation to that, that actually in a very homeopathic manner, already there is a hot feeling here. You apply hot here. This is something homeopathic relationship. With this, you are able to reduce the hyperemia, and swelling slowly goes away, and this sometimes this abscess becomes all right. But then, if you see these people, how they are understanding, they are understanding the cloth which is wet with the hot water. It is the wetness which has reduced the excess inflammation here. This was their blindness to understand, without really understanding the homeopathicity of the situation. Then similarly, there another example of oxide of mercury. It is a kind of eye drop they were using for different inflammation condition of the eyes. But then oxide of mercury produces in its primary action an inflammation of the eye, and because of which it is able to cure. But then they did not understand. They felt no, it is the alternative treatment of the mercury we gave, hence it has become all right. Another example he is telling about the parsley juice. It is the Ethusa synapium, which is being given for excessive amount of urination and frequency. They were why should a little parsley juice produces such evident relief in those cases where there are anxious, often ineffectual effort urination in little children and in ordinary gonorrhea, which is well known by their very painful, frequent, almost intellectual attempts to make water, if the fresh juice of this plant has not the power of causing in healthy person a painful, almost fruitless urging to urinate, consequently cure homeopathically. They were using it with some other purpose that it will help them make lot of urine. But then patient become all right. Hindman says it is not that you made lot of urine. It is because the whole situation was very homeopathic to the parsley, that is Ethusa synapium. Like this, another example, it is some pimpernel root. It is some medication used for the secretion of mucus in the bronchia and pauses. Lot of mucus in the trachea, bronchial, and in the throat. In that condition, this kind of medicine those days were in use. Anagalis, somewhere it is used, I think in our home, the anagalis. It is curing the patient because of their homeopathicity, not because that it is able to produce and remove lot of mucus from the uh, bronchioles. Then another is leaves of sabine. It is sabina, which is we all know that we use it for meteorologia, a specific kind of meteorologia. They were using it, leaves of sabine, which can itself cause meteorologia without perceiving the homeopathic curative law. Like this, you can just read and go through all the number of examples. I just tell you just the main headings of them. Opium for constipation, mercury for throat ulcers, rhubarb for diarrhea, belladonna for rabies, opium for comatose stage with high fever, comatose state of high fever. All these indications still hold good. They are the clinical tips we can always use in our cases. Recently, I got a case where this fear of corona, a small child of 4 5 years, since then, this fear he perceived every 5 minutes he's going to urinate. Today only I gave him, after reading this, I gave him this Ethusa Senapine. Let us see, I will share you if they are able to give, they are able to procure the medicine and can give the medicine, what going to be the result I will be sharing with you. So this is how we can use all this knowledge, all the examples in the detail. You can understand why they felt constipation getting all right with the opium, the comatose fever getting all right with the opium. They felt it is causing some kind of perspiration, but then uh, Hahnemann says it is actually getting all right because of the homeopathicity, nothing else. Because according to Hahnemann and our experience also, rest is a imagination. In the medicine, when patient becomes all right, it is only and only homeopathy. Rest is a delusion. Leaving apart the cases of accident, sudden kind of other situations where some external support and surgery required. Leave apart those cases. I'm saying the dynamic diseases, all acute and chronic. Rest is the delusion, and they remain in delusion. So we are able to complete this 83 or 83 paragraph, I think. Then next, hence it is highly important for the wheel of mankind to ascertain what really took place in these extremely rare but singularly salutary treatments. Henry says, for the sake of curing the wheel, means the wound of the mankind, it is very important to actually search into the cases of the old school and finding out the examples of homeopathicity. It is for that reason I am doing and telling you all this. Because that is singularly salutary treatment, as I am saying, that case became all right. Find out what was the homeopathicity. Because rest is a delusion. Rest is nothing. The answer we obtained to this question is of utmost significance. They were never performed in any other manner than by means of medicines of homeopathic power, that is to say, capable of producing a disease similar to morbid state sought to be cured. The cures were effected rapidly and permanently by medicines, the medical prescriber of which made use of them as it were by accident. He was not knowing it is homeopathic, rather by accident. And even in opposition to the doctrines of all previous systems in therapeutics, often without rightly knowing what they were doing and why they did it, and thus, against their will, they practically confirmed the necessity of only therapeutic law consonant to nature. Only therapeutic law. Only therapeutic law consonant to nature. When you say consonant, you can understand what kind of wavelength he's talking. That of homeopathy, a therapeutic law, which despite the many facts and innumerable hints that pointed to it, no physicians of past epochs have exerted themselves to discover, blinded as they all have been by medical prejudices. It is not that simply Hahnemann wanted to say in aphorism 6, an unprejudiced observer. And you can make out that how and why it is important to understand and learn this text of the introduction, because if we really want to make out and understand the prejudice, the most important view and the expression what Hahnemann wanted to say with the prejudice, and why you and me have to be unprejudiced, because that all those thoughts of the old school since ages persisting even now, and we simply get into the lot of issues. Let us take an example. Like one case comes if to you or me of CVA, that some kind of paralysis has occurred because of the CVA. Now, we close the matter in the old school even now that hemorrhage has occurred because of the hemorrhage or because of the hypoxia to the brain, the paralysis has occurred. It is a prejudice. When we go into the case, how we are able to, Hahnemann says, be unprejudiced, reason that this is not enough to say that this blood oozed out in the brain, hence the paralysis has come. Hahnemann wants to say, just go into the history, we come to know that he lost so much of money in his business that this anxiety led to hemorrhage or hypoxia, led to the paralysis. If we remain prejudiced even now in homeopathy, we will not be able to find the indicated medicine of that patient. That is why we need to be unprejudiced. So far in these previous paragraphs, including this para, Hahnemann has used this prejudice word twice, one in the footnote, another is now. Because he says that it is so easy to be prejudiced, so easy to be prejudiced. And until and otherwise, we are able to break, we are able to remove this cloud of prejudice, we cannot practice this right truth, the only salutary truth, which is very, very important for the healing of the wheel of the human race. That is something very important. So, I think up to here we are able to complete number of examples and the understanding how Hahnemann found out the examples of homeopathicity and the homeopathic usage, accidental homeopathy, unconscious homeopathy, blind kind of homeopathy in the old school practice, in the single medicine old school practice, mixture of old school practice, and he made a comparison of it with the non-medical people using the herb. Obviously, in a very unconscious way, they were homeopathic. And Hahnemann is saying that it is very important to know such examples so that we can understand that There is only one law, that is the similia, to cure the dynamic disease, whether acute and chronic, and rest is a delusion. Now, you and me have to decide that are we going to be with the delusion or we want to be with the reality. What Hahnemann is saying is reality, rest is a delusion, rest is farce, less rest is a kind of enmity with the human race. What Hahnemann is saying, the reality of law of civilia is the amity with the human race. So we have to decide that we want to be with amity or we want to be with enmity of the human race. So this is what I think we have discussed, and now a very small portion remaining, but then already it is 1 hour over, and certain comments, and I would like to know if so far whatever we have done in the introduction, all paras, if you all have any questions, why not you write here? uh, we can take another class and finish it, no problem, because now onwards, what is he going to tell us? He's going to tell us many examples of non-medical people, those who were doing unconscious homeopathy. And the most important example he discussed at length is about the treatment of burn. How the treatment of burn as per homeopathy is so successful and how it is not successful with the other kind of therapies. He has given number of footnotes and all that for all these conditions. And lastly, on the last page, there are certain paragraphs, very small, 2 line, 3 line paragraphs, where we will be knowing about the 7 personalities, the medical personalities of the ancient time, those who were uh, getting the glimpses and saying so regarding the law of similia. And with that, Hahnemann proves that this is the right thing to go ahead with the understanding of homeopathy, that what are the basic principles, what are the basic maxims we must learn, and he explained them in 1 to 70. And then finally, in the rest of the 71 to 291 or 294 aphorisms, he's going to explain us that how to really practice in the bedside. And until otherwise we understand this, we cannot do our cases, we cannot face bedside, we cannot actually write anything. And learning, practicing, writing, this is something very important, that should be our regular activity to really support us and support homeopathy. And definitely transfer the right knowledge to the coming generations. It is very, very important. Otherwise, there will be plots, there will be conspiracies against homeopathy by the profit mongers. That profit will not take them anywhere, but then it's a way of doing things nowadays. So, for us, the most important job is that we learn, we practice, we experience, we write this experience as a popular writing, as a scientific writing, we transfer the knowledge to the next generation, and that is what, going to be a thrice blessed for all of us. So let us take some examples or any questions or any comments so far. So we find Dvedi ji, Vishambar Dvedi ji, I am your student, sir. Need your blessings always. I am following your lectures by downloading videos as I'm lagging behind in the class. Today, got opportunity to live lecture in depth. Thank you very much, Dr. Dwivedi. I'm really thankful that even after being such a established practitioner somewhere in UP or in Uttarakhand, I appreciate that you are able to get time, off time, or on the live lectures, that you're listening all this. Maybe you will be enjoying. It will be enriching for you, and I really wish you best of luck. Whenever you get time, these classes will go for a quite long time. It will be my pleasure seeing you here, Dr. Dwivedi. Thank you very much. So, looking forward, if you all have any questions, so write me here, or otherwise, we can just start reading rest of the text, because you will find lot many explanations about Dr. Lux, who gave us the treatment by same on which most of the vaccines developed. So just look into the rest of the text, read it. So far, I believe every one of you are very well versed with the writing of Henman. You are now in friendly relation, in a very, very nice relation with the style of Henman. You must be enjoying the style of Henman. It is such a literary style. I personally enjoy it very much. So, in case not much questions, so let us sign off for tomorrow. Or if you are having any questions, you can write me in the Audisapri group of the Organon classes, or you can write me in the comment section. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll wait for another 1 minute to see if somebody is writing something, or then we will sign off. And really thankful every one of you giving such a patient hearing to these lectures for such a long time. Maybe some of the student may feel such a thing, so it is boring. Rather, it is giving us lot of strength to understand our science. Right? Thank you very much, everyone. This net is also saying something. So let us say thanks to this net, and thanks to everyone. Sign off.